let me share my screen. And so, once again, we are looking at Ger and Karunatilaka Lesson 9, further readings, and this would be the first reading from the Digha Nikaya. This is the famous Sigala Sutta, the householder who gets advice about proper behavior. It's sort of a famous reference point for lay people to understand proper behavior, I guess. And so we start with Evang me sutang, thus I have heard. Ekang samayang bhagava rajagahe viharati veluvane kalandaka nivape. So we have our accusative of time. On one occasion, the Blessed One, nominative, bhagava, viharati, our verb, which is expressed in the present tense, but as we see often refers to an event in the past. And we have three locatives describing the location, the first one coming before the verb and the rest after the verb. This is a very common pattern we see. And so the first one, rajagahe, in rajagaha, in velu vane, in the bamboo grove. Velu would be bamboo, and vana is a forest or a grove. And also in the kalandaka nivape. So nivapa would be translated typically as a feeding ground, and a kalandaka is a squirrel. So a very charming location, at least it sounds like it. Tena kopana samayena. So here we have tena samayena. This is our time expressed in the instrumental. And on that occasion, and here's our protagonist, the subject, Sigalako Gahapati Puto. So his name is Sigala Gahapati Puto, so son of the householder, or householder's son. And now he's described with a couple of absolutives. So vutaya, which is a form of the verb utahati, to rise up, to get up. And we see it when it comes after a word ending in a vowel, that it's actually given this V to start to help with the pronunciation. So I suppose it's easier to say eva vutaya than eva uttaya. So this would be the ya kind of absolutive. Having risen, kalasa. So kala is time, but we see it here in the genitive case, and it has the sense of the morning. Having gotten up in the morning. And now our second absolutive, nikamitva, having gone out. And our absolutive from rajagaha. And now he's described with three compounds, alavato, alakeso, panjaliko. So these compounds are Bahubihi compounds. They describe something external to the compounds themselves. They're adjectives. And they are describing Sigaliko Gahapatiputo. So in Pali, we don't really have the verb to have. And so he's having those things. But in Pali, a common way of expressing that is to use compounds also in the nominative or matching in case, say, to describe what he is possessing. So alavato is wet clothes, alakeso is wet hair, panjaliko is with his arms extended, probably in this kind of prayer hand position. And then namasati, this is our present tense, again probably expressing a past event. And putu di sa. So this is a feminine noun in the accusative. The many directions. And then this verb also takes as its object all these words, which would be the 6 cardinal points. And we spoke briefly about how in the Indian way of doing things, the first direction is always the east direction, and the second, going clockwise, would be the south, which also is known as the right side, the west direction, which would be also the back direction, one's back, behind one, and then the north direction. So those would be the 4 cardinal directions, and we also have the lower direction, Hetimang, and the upper one, Uparimang, right? And we continue. Atako Bhagava Pubangha Samayang Nivasetva Pata Chivarang Adaya Rajagahang Pindaya Pavisi. So then the Blessed One, Bhagava here, subject, nominative, Nivasetva, having dressed, another absolutive, and it's described as being in the, but as the accusative, Pubang ha samayang. So there's the word aha here built in. So before daytime or before day occasion. Sometimes this word is translated as the forenoon, or we can say perhaps in the morning. And then here we have another absolutive, Pata chivarang adaya. So this is adadati, to take, having taken, in the absolutive, that ya kind of absolutive, and he's taking pata, his bowl, and chivarang, his robe. This would be the outer robe, right? It's not like he's walking around naked holding his clothes in his hand. Taking his bowl and robe. And here we have an aorist form of the verb of pavisati. Pavisi, he entered. Rajagahang, accusative, the city of Rajagaha. Pindaya, dative of purpose, 4 alms. And now going on. Adasako Bhagava Sigalakang Gahapatiputang Kalaseva Vutaya. The rest is pretty much a repeat. And so here we have the verb adasa. This is an aorist. This is our pasati or dusity. That's all based on the root drish. Adasa. And it's coming first, and it's going with Bhagava. The Blessed One saw, and now expressed in the accusative, right? Because it's the object of his seeing. Sigalakang Gahapatiputang, having gotten up in the morning, having set out from Rajagaha, and now all in the accusative. And then here, by the way, we have an accusative, but this is describing Sigala, and so it's in the present participle accusative. Namasantang. Yeah. Going on. So now we have the seeing, the verb to see now expressed as the absolutive, disva, having seen, or perhaps even seeing, sigala, accusative, gahapatiputang, etad avocha. He said this, right? And we have this kind of typical question marker with this, what's called an interrogative particle, I think. Kim nuko tvang gahapatiputa. So why? And now the Buddha is addressing Sigala with this evocative gahapatiputa, householder son. And it's all exactly the same, or almost exactly the same. except we have the namas asi in the second person, right? Because you are you are doing this. It's the second person. And so, why are you doing all these things? The Buddha asked. Of course, he knows the answer, but this is his mode of teaching. And so the response comes from Sigala. Pitamang bante kalang karontang evang avacha. Disa tata namaseyasiti. So here, bante, Venerable Sir, father, pita. So this is our group of nouns in that ar suffix nominative, and he's described kalang karonto, when dying, or this is present participle, dying, said avacha thus to me, mang, accusative of I, or ahang, to me, mang. So, father, when dying, said this to me, disa tata namaseyasi. So here we have our verb, which we've been seeing, now in the optative. You should venerate the directions. And tata is a kind type of vocative, dear one, right? And then he continues, so ko ahang bante, pitu vachanang sakaronto, garu karonto, manento, pujento. And then the rest is looking very similar. So here we have something which we see fairly commonly in Pali. It's sort of double pronoun, so ahang, but it really is just ahang. The so doesn't seem very translatable here. And so ko ahang, so that I, it's a narrative kind of thing, bante. So here, and we have these, a row of four present participles. So honoring, respecting, esteeming, and paying respects to vachanang, the teaching or the word of my father, right? Genitive. And then he describes what he's doing. But here, we see it here as the first person, because now he's describing his own action. Namasami, I venerate. And the rest is the same. But the Buddha is now ready to tell him that he doesn't really agree with this mode of action. And so he replies, Nako Gahapatiputta, Arayasa vinaya evang chatisa namasitaba. So now we have our verb in the future passive participle, going with chadisa, right? So not in the discipline. It's not in the discipline that the 6 directions should be venerated, right? So in other words, your mode, your way of paying respects to the 6 directions are not in accordance with the Buddha's teaching of the noble ones, Ariyasa, Vinaya Ariyasa. So then Sigala replies, now he's intrigued. He realizes, well, maybe I've been doing this all wrong. Yata katang panabante, ariyasa vinaye chadisa namasitaba. So here we have a sort of a yata and then tata. So then, how, Venerable Sir, should the 6 directions be venerated in accordance with the discipline of the noble ones. Sadhu me bante bhagava tata dhammang dese tu yata aryasa vinaya chadisa namasita ba. So sadhu me, it would be good for me, it would be beneficial for me if the Blessed One, and then notice here, this is a third person imperative. This is the imperative in the sense of a polite request. And notice he's speaking to the Buddha in the third person, not the second person, you, because it's also a form of polite address, right? So sort of like, because Diane is my elder, I might say to Diane, maybe Diane should explain this one. Something like that. Instead of saying, maybe you should do this. It's another level of polite quality, right? So the Blessed One, it would be good if the Blessed One would explain the Dhamma thus, or like this. So as, or just as, or so in the way that the 6 directions should be venerated in accordance with the discipline of the noble ones. Please teach me, in other words, the right way. And so the Buddha replies, Tenehi Gahapatiputta sunohi sadhukang manasi karohi basi samiti. So then, well then, Tenehi, here's our vocative, Gahapatiputta, right? Listen. You should listen. You listen, right? And then here, Sadhukang manasi karohi. So sadhukang is functioning here in the accusative as adverbial, going with manasi karohi, which is a, I guess, tapurisa compound, but interestingly maintains its retains its case ending, manasi, in the mind make, but it has the sense of pay close attention. So pay attention well. Basi sami, future tense, I will speak. Evang bante, yes, sir. Yes, venerable sir. Sigaliko Gahapatiputo Pacha so si. This is our aorist. He replied, dative, to the Blessed One, Bhagavato. Bhagava etad avocha. The Blessed One said this. And now we have this somewhat intricate list of things that should be done. And they seem perhaps slightly not clear, but as I think Catherine pointed out wisely last class, these things will be explained later. It's not like this is the only information we get. And so this is just sort of a broad overview, and they will be, of course, further explained later. So now, the Buddha says, Yato ko Gahapatiputta Arya Savakasa Chattaro Kama Kilesa Pahina Honti. So, when indeed, oh, and then this is the vocative, right? Householder's son. And notice how whole thing is in the dative genitive, so it's sort of passive speech. But we would typically, I think, translate this in the active voice. So here, when Chattaro Kama Kilesa, so 4 bad actions are abandoned, right? So this would be in the past participle of pajahati, pahina, matching with kama kilesa. So when 4 bad actions are abandoned, and chatuhi tanehi papa kamang na karohi, And of course, there's the idea of the Arya Savaka. He does not do papakamang, evil actions. And here we have instrumental plural, by means of four reasons or four grounds. And I wanted to point out this word tanang, which is a complicated word, which has a huge number of meanings. So let me show you the dictionary, this sort of gigantic entry for Tana. And as you can see, it's based on this root sta, or titati for us in Pali, to stand. And so in the literal sense, it has the meaning of a place, location. But the applied meaning, which is probably much more common for us here, would be a state or a condition or a behavior, right? And I think this is the sense that is being expressed here. The four grounds of behavior, or the four reasons of behavior for bad actions. So that would be the second thing. Another four, right? So we're up to 8. And now, this one, cha boganang apaya mukani na sevati. So here, sevati, in a most literal sense, would probably be to serve. But here, maybe to practice, and negated, does not practice. The 6, cha, apaya mukani. And so this word also may be a bit tricky to understand as a compound, because we have this word mukha, mouth, which means so many different things. So let me show you again the dictionary entry for mukha, which is another sort of gigantic entry. And so we all know that the word mukha means mouth, but it takes on many other meanings. In fact, in a reading we had a few weeks ago, Mahapadana, I think, the one about the 4 great references, the person is described as being face to face with the Buddha, right? And so that's a word, that's a type of usage of mukha. But in our reading here, it does not mean the mouth, I don't think. It does not mean the face, the whole face. It doesn't really mean the mouth of a river, but really it has here this 4th reason, the cause, way, means, or reason. And in fact, as somebody pointed out, I think Sarah pointed out, it's actually even listed, our compound is even listed in this entry, cause of ruin or loss. And I think that is the sense of the mukha in this compound. And apaya is actually made up of apa plus the verb eti, to go, so going away. So 4 means of going away, which can be translated as something like dissipating, draining, bogang, wealth. So that here we have, does not practice the 6 ways of dissipating wealth. So we're now up to 14. So this is expressed here, chudasa, right? That's a form of the word 14. So he, papaka pagato, he has gone away from these 14 evil things, right? He has thus gone away, this is apagato, gone away, from 14 evils. He's also described as chadisa pati chadi. So pati chadi is the nominative of Chadin. He's a coverer of the six directions. He's a six direction coverer. In other words, I think the sense of it would be that he is now venerating the six directions properly. He's also described as Upaya Loka Vijayaya Patipano Hoti. And so he has, now here, there was a little bit of question in my mind for the correct translation of Patipano, because it can mean to practice, but it also means to enter. And it doesn't seem entirely clear to me which one should be used here. Perhaps we can say he has entered upon victory in both worlds. So that would be one expression of Patipano. And then finally we have Tassa ayang cheva loko arado hoti para cha loko. So this world and the next world is arado for him. And arado has the sense of something like well begun. It's also been translated as he tastes success. So that is a very lengthy translation of this rather complicated sentence. And then finally we have our standard sentence. We've seen many times now. So kaya sabeda parang marana sugating sagang lokang upapajati. He, after the breakup of the body, after death, arises in a good destination, a heavenly world. So are there any questions about this whole reading? No questions at all?
No.
No. Okay. Well, Sarah?
Yes, I have a quick question. Could you read your English translation of the sentence where the six directions are covered? He's a pati
Chadi
chadi.
chadi.
Yeah, I had trouble, putting that into English. So could you just give that one time
literally
out?
it means a six directions coverer.
But we don't normally speak like that.
No.
No.
But it just says
Covering.
Sorry? He is
Just covering.
Yeah, he is covering the six directions. I mean, even that doesn't really make any sense in English as itself. And as I said, the sense of it seems to be that in this way, he practices veneration to the six directions properly. Mm-hmm. But this is my interpretation. This is not what we see in the Pali.
Yeah, I think I somewhat grasped the meaning, but as to how to put it into English, I just said the six directions are covered.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's a bit of a stretch for the grammar, so.
But I think we do have to choose to render it in a way that would make sense to a reader.
Yes.
Not just a strict grammatical rendering. Right. So I think your choice is a good one.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Ajahn, do you have a question? I think I'm not hearing you.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Could you repeat how you translate arado hoti?
Yeah. So this word arado, the adjective, is something like well begun or successful. So this world and the next world is either well begun for him, or we can say he tastes success in this world and the next world. It depends how we take arado.
Right. Okay, thank you. I think I got turned around. There's one definition of arada being like undertaking or started upon.
You know, there are two words that are very close in meaning. Let's look at that together in the dictionary.
Is it araba and
Yeah.
arada?
I think they're both based on we can say that verb arabati. See here, there's arada and araba,
Yes. Yes.
right? It's very confusing. But in our reading, it's the first one, arada, begun, started out, bent on, undertaking. That's why I chose well begun. Well begun. But I noticed that other people choose to translate this as he tastes success. In other words, that he is on the right track. He's starting to do the right thing. But I don't think it would be a rubba, which would be directly related to arabati, beginning or undertaking. But on the other hand, that they are very close in meaning.
Right.
Yeah.
But one's a gerund and one's a past participle. Oh, thank you.
Yes, that's right. Grammatically, they're quite different. That's true.
Thank you.
Any other questions about this? Okay. Then we can go on to another reading, a shorter reading in the Digha Nikaya. This is Mahapadana Sutta, and the section called the Brahma Yachana Kata. So the section where the talk about how the imploring of Brahma is asking Vipassi to please teach the Dhamma. And I've put here in my reading a little piece of the dictionary entry for this interesting compound, yang nu ahang, which has that sense of let me now, or perhaps I should. So who would like to start for us reading and doing some translating? Lisa, would you like to read and translate a little bit for us?
Yeah. Attako bhikkhave vipassasa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa etat avasi. Yang nuna ahang dhammang desayanti. So atas then monks this etat ahosi, this occurred. So us ahosi is ours.
Right. Of which verb?
Of hoti.
Right. So literally would be, I guess, this was. But as you say, it's much better. This occurred.
This occurred to vipassi. It's in the dative form.
Mm-hmm.
And then everything else is also in the dative. Bhagavato arahato. So vipassi, the blessed one, arhat, fully and completely enlightened one. And then we have, I took young nuna as well now.
Okay.
So well now, should I teach Desayang is first person single optative. The ending is Ayang. So should I teach the Dhamma?
Yes. Would you like to continue a little bit more?
Attako bhikkhave vipassisa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa etat avasi. So same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Then, O monks, this occurred to Vipassi, the blessed one, arhat, fully and complete awakened one. And arigato ko me ayang dhammo gambiro dudasso dur anubodo santo panito attakavacharo nipuno pandadita vedaniyo. So I have a question about ayang. I'm not sure why there's a long A.
That's a good question. I don't I don't actually don't know the reason. Is it that way in our book? Maybe I made a mistake typing. Let me look. Yeah, why is it a long A? I don't know.
Okay. Well,
It seems to have the, I mean, I don't think it's actually short A in the book. I think it might be a typo in my document. I apologize.
okay. So this Dhamma that is gambiro, profound, duta, so hard to see, dur anubodo, difficult to understand, santo, peaceful, bonito, excellent, and attaka, vacharo. So there's two words in here. Vachara, that means a sphere. And then I believe attaka means thought.
Right. It has the sense of beyond the range of thinking, right? Not able to be kind of cognitively arrived upon. It's a complicated word to understand. But that's how it's usually rendered, beyond the range of thinking. We can't think about it in rational ways.
Okay. Does that also have the meaning as profound? Gambiro?
I mean, these things are certainly related somewhat synonymously, but they do have their own personal senses of meaning. It is similar to profound, but I think it has that sense of beyond the realm of thinking.
Okay. Beyond the realm of thinking, and then Nipuno is subtle.
Yeah.
And then lastly is Pandita Vedaniyo is looks like it's a gerundive, aniya.
Yes.
So to be understood by the wise.
Right. So that would be gerundive, or maybe future passive participle, or even sometimes called the optative participle. Yes. Right. To be realized, or should be realized, or to be realized by wise ones. But what about adigato? Did you translate that?
Arigato is past participle. It means has been realized.
I'm sorry, say that again.
Has been realized.
Right. So this first clause, how can you just give us your translation of that, the first 5 words?
This Dhamma has been realized by me.
Right. Right. Exactly. This Dhamma, which has been realized by me, and then we have this long string of descriptive terms going with Dhamma. Exactly. Very good. Thank you. Diane, would you like to continue with this next sentence?
Alaya Rama Ko Panayam Paja Alaya Rata Alaya Samudita. I had trouble with this because all of these words to me seem almost the same thing. Alaya Rama, Alaya is attachment or clinging, and Arama is like pleasure or delighting. So the subject of the sentence is the paja, the humankind or the population, and panayang is pana plus ayang.
Yeah.
So, but this population, delighting in attachment, and then alaya rata is the past participle of ramati, also delighting or delighted in attachment, and alaya samudita is the past participle of samoditi, also delighted.
Yeah.
So it's like 3, those are compounds, right? 3 compounds.
What kind of compounds are they?
Bahubihi compounds
And why?
because they are acting as an adjective for the paja, the population, the humankind.
Right. So the population has these
Has the
qualities.
qualities
Right.
of clinging and enjoying and being devoted to attachments, just rejoicing in all of it.
Yeah, or just loving it. And
Getting
so
carried away with it.
yeah. So we see this often that a string of near synonymous words, so often they get increasingly long, right? So we have alaya samudita at the end. And alaya is an interesting word, which everyone knows, because in its most basic sense, it means like a collection place, right? A place where things accumulate, and where snow accumulates, hima, is the Himalayas. And so the Himalayas is something like a snow collection place, a snow storage ground. But
That's
of course,
lovely.
but of course, alaya also has this extended meaning of attachment, desire, lust, right? Holding to. So that would be the sort of the connection between the storing and the holding to alaya. And so, of course, the very famous monk we have today, Analeo, his name has nothing to do with the mountains, but he's without attachment, I would guess. Good, Diane. Okay.
Well, good morning. I am Cora.
Hi.
I have translate not population but generation. It's correct.
Generation? Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
That's fine. Meaning the people of the world.
Yes, but the people of the world today, in that moment, not all
right.
the population. Yes, it's
That's
good.
right. Current population. Exactly. Thank you. Fiacra, would you like to continue for us? Read and translate the next sentence.
Okay. Idampi ko tanang dudasang yadidang sabasankara.
Wait, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I think we've skipped the sentence.
Oh, have we? Oh, sorry. Sorry, yes. So, yes, it's a very similar sentence to the one that came before. So, sorry about that. Alaya Ramaya ko pana pajaya, alaya rataya, alaya samuditaya dudasang idang tanang yadidang ida pachaya pati cha sampupada.
Yeah. Ida pachayata paticha samupado.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So the to the person who is they like their attachment, they cling to their attachment and rejoice in their attachment. This thing is difficult. So I'm going irang tanang is the thing, the subject, and then dudasang. So it's describing it as difficult, namely, and then we've got these ida pachaya ta pati shasamu pado, which is the dependent origination and the specific conditionality.
Yes. So how did you translate do dasang?
As difficult, is that right? Or
yeah, I mean literally it has this sense of hard to see, because we have the verb dusity in here.
Dusity, yes, difficult too.
So idang tanang is, how did you translate that?
I just said this thing.
Yeah, it really would, maybe it could be, but I think it's more specific, like this principle, right? Because it's referring to like dependent origination. This, it's not anything, it's this principle is hard to see. And then we have backing up all these words. And what case is that in? What cases are those in?
So it's the dative. So
right.
Yeah. So
for the
and then
Pajaya, for that population,
for that
and it's being described in those three similar ways.
Mhm.
And then Yadidang, how did you translate that?
So it'd be namely. Would be
Namely, right. So Ida Pachayata, yeah, Paticca Samupado. So Ida, I have it here, and I'm sure you saw it.
Yeah.
So Idang plus Pachaya plus this ta, specific conditionality. So whether these two things are the same or they're different, well, they're certainly similar. Maybe we'll set that question aside here. But these are the two things which, of course, Vipassana has realized, which is very hard to realize. And he says that this principle is very hard to see for this population because of their attachment, right? Good. Would you like to do the next sentence?
Okay. So idang pi ko tanang dudasang yadidang sabasankara samato
Good.
sabu patini sago tanakayo virago nirodo nibanang. So these are the progressive attainments, and so what they're saying is, so idang pi, so this, and also this thing is difficult to see, namely, okay, so the Saba Sankara Samato. So this is all of the Sankaras are being stilled or tranquilized. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, and then the oh yes, so this is then the Sab Upadi Patini Sago. So this is the upadis, or the clinging. So all of the giving up of all clinging. Is that right?
Right. Yeah. So pati nisago is the giving up, the abandoning, and then upadi, that would be just by itself with a short u, would be, I guess, here clinging. That's another word which can take a large range of meaning. It could also be like the place where things are clung, but here it's clinging.
Foundation.
And saba is
Oh,
all. So
yes.
the giving up of all clinging, maybe we can
Giving up of all
translate
clinging.
that.
That's good. Yeah.
And then go on.
So tanha kayo. So tana is the thirst or the craving,
Yeah.
and then kaya is obviously body. So it's the bodily craving, and then
No. I think you've gotten that word wrong.
have I?
Notice that there's a aspirated K here. Kayo.
Ah.
So
Okay.
does anyone want to jump in and tell us what this compound means?
It's the destruction.
Yes, it's the destruction of craving.
The destruction of craving. Okay, yes.
So careful with that because of that aspirated K.
Yes, I'll watch for that. Yeah, because I probably don't pronounce it as well enough to actually hear the difference in my head. So,
but this is a quite common compound, so you will grow accustomed to seeing this word a lot. The destruction of craving.
The destruction of craving. Yeah. Okay, that's great. And then the virago is the so the virago is the strong energy. Is that right?
It really means detachment.
Detachment. Oh yes, of course. Yes, detachment from. Sorry, yes, it's V and then rago.
Yes, this would be the V in the negating sense, I think.
Yes. So the detachment. Okay, and then the nirodo is the so that just means cessation as well, isn't it?
Well, not as well, but yes, it means cessation.
Sorry,
right.
yes. So yes, cessation, and then nibbana is nibbana, yes.
Right. Good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ajahn, would you like to finish this for us?
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Ahancheva ko panadhammang desayang parechame na ajane yung. So mamasa kilamato. So mamasa vihesati. So that ahancheva can be broken down into ahang che eva. And we'll maybe translate that che first. So if ahang I in the nominative, eva indeed, eva ko, if indeed I, but pana maybe, but because it's kind of shifting his thought.
Yeah, maybe that one we would even take first.
Okay,
Yeah.
but if I indeed desayung, optative, first person, if I were to teach Dhammam, the Dhamma, specifically referring to Nibbana and Paticca Samuppada in the last two sentences, pare, other people, which is, I guess, accusative?
I don't know. Maybe it's indeclinable.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Maybe it's accusative, though. Object of ajaneyung.
Right. Other people, ajaneyung, might understand, but we've got negated, but other people would not understand.
Yeah, maybe and the chair would be here, and maybe.
And other people would not understand me.
Yeah.
And the may is genitive, or yeah, basically it's the object of
Maybe would not understand me.
Dative.
More
Okay.
accusative?
Me. Or accusative. Okay. Okay. Can may be accusative?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Accusative.
Okay.
More, I'm not sure. But it's definitely the sense is me, like in English.
Yeah. So mamasa kilamato. So I was tripped up a little bit, but I think this so, rather than referring to a person, rather being it is referring to that, referring
this
to what
teaching.
This teaching.
Doing this.
Doing that, exactly. This asa being the, is it optative third person? This would be kilamato, serving as kind of an adjective for the so. So this would be tiresome. Kilamata. Mung is, or mama, genitive
Right.
for me. So this would be
clearly dative genitive, right? Mama.
This would be tiresome for me. Sa mamasa vihesati. So that would be vexing or burdensome, or again, similar to tiresome for me. And it's interesting that so I guess it's the Vihesa and the Kilamata which are kind of the subject, and so is then in comparison, the so and the sa are then in relation to that, because we've got feminine sa referring to the feminine Vihesa.
That's right.
And the masculine so referring to the masculine Kilamato.
That's right. They are definitely going together.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, good. I think we've covered it. Thank you. Any questions on this reading? I think this one was a bit easier than the previous one. No? Okay. Then we can go for Dhammapada. I've looked up the meters, I should say, for Dhammapada, but please don't ask me any questions. Because the meter, especially for the first two, definitely eludes me. They seem to be in Vaitalia. And then 46 would be in Trishtub, which in Pali is called Tutuba. That's a little clearer. That would be 11 But these two, hard for me to understand. I'm afraid I can't really say much about that. But these first two go together. They're from the section on flowers from the Dhammapada. So, Catherine, would you like to do the first one for us?
Okay. Ko imam patawim vijay sati. Yama lokancha imam sade wakam. Ko dhamma padang sude sitang. Kusalo pupamiwa pace sati.
Mm-hmm.
Who will conquer this earth? Patawim is earth.
Yes.
Who will conquer this earth? This world of the Lord of Dead, together with the deities.
Right. This world of Yama with its devas. With its devas. Right.
Okay,
Sa
together with the
devaka.
devas. Okay. Then who will point out the well-taught path or the footstep, so path of righteousness? As a skillful one will gather flowers. As a skillful one, collect flowers. I put will gather.
Yeah. So notice here that the verb pachesati, which is, as you said, to gather.
Will gather. Huh?
Yeah, in the
future
future.
tense. Tense.
It goes with both the third and the fourth line, right?
Yeah.
Because
yes.
there's no verb in
That's
this
right.
in this third line. So how did you translate the last two lines?
Who will point out the well-taught path of righteousness?
But where do you see point
gather
out?
Flowers. I put point out for sudesitang. Past participle of the seti points out.
Well, I took sudesitang as an adjective, not a participle. Well-taught. Well-taught and path of Dhamma, maybe. It also could be the word of the Dhamma. I noticed that Norman translates this word pada, like the title of the book, as the word of the Dhamma, not the path of the Dhamma, but it could be the path of the Dhamma. It seems like it's a little indeterminate.
Myself thinking pada is footstep.
It could be. It could be also. It seems like it could be either, both. But this third line, who, literally it says, who this well-taught Dhamma path, but there's no verb here or participle at all. It really, this one, who will gather it, who will collect it, who will pick it, and also who will pick or collect. And how did you translate kusalo pupang iva?
Skillful one. Kusalo as the skillful one.
Yeah.
Pupamiwa, flowers.
Right.
And the pasesati is the will gather.
I see. Yes. Okay. So let me read you Norman's translation for reference.
Okay.
Who will conquer this earth and this world of Yama with its gods? Who will gather? So notice he's putting in the verb here. He's inserting it. Who will gather the well-taught word of the doctrine as a skillful man gathers a flower? So notice here that the fourth line is the simile. Like a skillful one, or man, kusalo, like a skillful one, pachesati, might gather or will gather a flower, who will gather the well-taught word of the Dhamma.
So the third line is using the fourth line's
Verb.
verb
Yes.
together. Okay,
Yes.
same.
Which is
Okay,
something we
okay,
see in verse. It's a little tricky.
okay.
And
Yeah,
of course, the
thanks.
question
Yeah.
is answered in the next verse. It's not answered in this stanza, right?
Okay.
Good. Okay. Huilin, would you like to do the next one? The answer?
Yep. Oh, sorry. Yeah. 45. Yeah. Seko patavim vijay Yama lokancha imang sadevakang. Seko Dhammapadang sudisitang. Pusalo pupamiwa pachesati.
Mm-hmm.
So Seko I put as a learner or disciple in training. Will conquer Vajasati, the earth, Patavim.
Yeah.
And this realm of Yama, ruler of the unknown, together with the Devas,
Mm-hmm.
and Seko, a learned disciple in training, will take, I put the well-preached steps of the Dhamma.
And did you insert
just
the
like
verb
a skillful
from
person?
the end? Yeah. So, sorry, I didn't catch it. Could you just give me the last two lines?
I put a learner disciple in training will take the well-preached stuff, just like a skillful person will gather flowers.
Yes, I think that's good. Right.
Right.
So,
Stephen, may
yes?
I ask? I do not translate who will conquer. I translate who will understand this land, the war of Yama and God. If it's wrong, I change the word.
I took this verb to be vijayati. This word verb to conquer.
Which is also mastering.
To master.
To master or triumph over. Yeah.
Right. Cora, which choice did you have? I'm sorry.
I translate who will understand in the sense of, well, not in the sense of conquer, but conquer with the mind, not conquer. That's my idea.
Well, I don't think maybe in a sort of extended sense, but I don't think the sense is so much to understand, but the idea is to sort of triumph over, to master. But I guess that could mean to understand eventually. Like if you triumph over your Pali grammar, you will understand it. But I think the idea of it here is more of a triumphal person, a conqueror. That's at least my understanding of it.
Thank you.
Okay, sure. What was I going to say? I think I was going to say something about the word seiko, the seka, which Norman says it could possibly mean simply sahi, which would mean he indeed, which is actually not giving a specific person instead of seiko. I'm not sure how he knows that this might be an option. But a seka in the sort of technical sense is one who has entered the stream, so that person's called a trainee, but not an arahant who has completed his or her training. So that would be this would be the first three, I guess, levels of attainment towards enlightenment. Catherine?
Yeah, I put Seko as the one in training.
The one in training. Yeah.
Yeah.
The trainee, the one in training. I see that Norman has the learner, which is a little bit obscure to me. It doesn't really make sense. But it seems like if we translate this for somebody who doesn't know so much about Buddhism, we almost are forced to have a footnote, because what does this mean? Well, I don't know. And I'm not sure to what extent it should be taken in that technical sense that I described either. The one in training, the trainee, that's a good translation. Let me read 45 in Norman's translation. The learner will conquer the earth and this world of Yama with its gods. The learner will gather the well-taught word of the doctrine as a skillful man gathers a flower. Are there any other people who'd like to offer their translation? Lisa, what did you have?
Something very similar. I just have the trainee will conquer the earth in this world of Yama together with the gods. The trainee will gather the well-taught word of the Dhamma like a wholesome one gathers a flower.
Yes, right. So this idea of gathering flowers is going throughout these verses. It's sort of beautiful. Anybody else? Sarah, did you have your hand up a moment ago?
Yes, I could just do my translation that will incorporate my questions or my comments. I said the one in training will master the earth, this world of Yama and its devas. The one in training will find the well-taught word of the Dhamma, like the skillful person gathers flowers.
I like master.
Yeah, and that was my comment.
That seems to bridge Cora's suggestion.
Yeah, I was going to say, like Cora, I felt that conquer is a little too pugilistic, where we're talking about developing skill.
Yes.
Like if I go gathering flowers, I definitely don't feel like I'm conquering the flowers.
That's a good point.
And then my question about using the verb pachinati.
Yeah, pachinati, right.
If we use it twice, is it okay to change it? Like instead of repeating, we'll gather, could we say like we'll find? Is that too much of a stretch?
Not necessarily. Not necessarily. Because
I
think it does have the sense of to discern, realize, or know. I wrote that down in my notes.
Okay.
Just picking up, I think, collecting.
Okay, collecting is same as like, finding, discovering. Okay.
Putting into one's possession, in a sense.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. They're interesting and definitely a challenge to capture well into English, I would say. Okay. We have another one. Who'd like to do this one? 46. Who haven't we heard so much from? Fiacra, would you like to read and translate 46 for us?
Sure, no problem, yeah. So, Henupamang kayang imang viditva, machari damang abhisambudano, chetvana marasa papu pakani adasanang machurajasa gache.
Very nice.
I ruined the meter on that, but
well, I heard all the syllables. That was good.
Great, excellent, yeah, great. So something with upamang is like. So this is like foam. The body. So this kayang imang, this body, understanding that this body is like foam.
So what is viditva again?
Viditva is the so that is our gerund of vidity, to understand.
Right. So knowing or having known, this body is like foam. And notice that we have the word upama as a noun, I think, a feminine noun meaning a simile.
Simile, upama.
But this is different. This is just the upama as in the sense of like or similar to. It's not a noun really, just as you said. Okay.
Great. So, Marichi Damang Abhisambudano. So this is the, so a thing of illusion. So this is sorry. So and then abhisambudhano is a participle having fully realized.
Yes. So abhisambudhano is a form of the present participle.
Present participle, yeah.
The verb is abhisambhujati. So this bhujati in abhisambhujati, we see it becomes this word Buddha, right? And so this would be present participle, understanding. And now here in this compound, we often will see a compound having its second half as dhammang, but it's generally translated as having the nature of.
Ah, yes.
And then with the first piece. So the Dhamma piece would be translated as like of the nature of, or having the nature of.
Yeah.
So okay, having the nature of a mirage, or like a mirage.
Yep. Okay, very good. Then, so then the next bit. So the so I just have from from the glossary, I wasn't really able to parse it, but it said that oh yeah, I read it first. Sorry, Chetvana Marasa Papu Pakani. So having cut off Maras, then this is the flower-tipped arrows.
Yeah, I don't understand where this arrow comes from, because it's not in the. I don't blame you. I'm just saying I personally don't understand where this arrow word comes from. It's not there. I mean, literally, as I understand, pupa, of course, is flower. Papupa would be, I think, the blossom. I'm not sure even the difference. But the flowers or the blossoms of Mara.
Of Mara.
But I've seen this explained as arrow, but it seems to be not a literal translation.
Yeah.
And I tried to look in the commentary, but I didn't see any mention of arrow. Anyway, it's a small point.
Okay. Sure. Yeah. No. That's yeah. Thanks for that, because that's important. Then so the Chetvana, I was just translating that as a gerund, but am I?
Yes,
right,
it's that kind of fancy form of the gerund absolutive vana. Like we often see disvana, chetvana. It's the same thing as chetva, exactly the same.
Exactly.
It just has another piece of syllable, I think, maybe used for metrical reasons to make 11. So, and the last line?
So, adasanang machurajasa gache. So this is the, so yeah, this was strange. So the adasanang is invisible. So it's invisible to the god of death. He becomes invisible to the god of death. Is that right?
Yeah. Well, gache
is to go. Yeah.
Or it's actually an optative, right? So it's a short optative. So he should go.
He should go.
And then where the king of death is not seeing him.
Ah, okay. So he goes to a place that's unseen to. Okay, yes. Yeah, so
I guess this would be a dative to where the king of death is not seeing him.
Is not seeing
him in parenthesis, sort of.
So a place where the king of death can't see him.
And that would, I think the sense of this in the metaphor is that the place where the king of death can't see him would be nibbana.
Oh, okay, great.
Right? To transcend the round of birth and death.
Great, yeah.
Yeah, great. So let me read you 46 in the Norman translation. Knowing that this body is like foam, knowing that it has the nature of a mirage, cutting off the flowery blossoms of Mara, one should go where the king of death cannot see him. So, I hope that's clear, Fiacra.
Great. Yes, that's much clearer now. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, the arrow thing, I just don't understand it, but maybe because, well, I don't know, but maybe if anyone knows, maybe they can explain it to us. If not, then we can go on.
I actually have a question.
Yeah.
I'm having trouble translating adasanam. To me, it looks like a present participle, not seeing. So I'm not sure how to fit it into that last sentence, last part.
Well, it seems to be a sort of adjective, not seeing, and it's describing Machuraja. So one should go to where the king of death is not seeing, but what's implied is the him, not seeing him. I think that's my understanding. But Sarah, do you have some help on this?
No help. But I was going to say the way I took that, because I thought that was difficult too. I saw it more as a past participle with a n ending rather than the nt. But anyway, I said one should go unseen by the king of death. I mean, it's stretching the dative, but that's how I saw it.
Say the translation again of the last line.
One should go unseen by the king of death.
I see. Adjectival that way.
Yeah.
But by the king of death?
I know, it's a stretch. I just couldn't figure out how to do the king of death's unseeedness. Or I don't even know how to make that literal.
That's a good one. It is a little complicated. I'm a little confused about it too.
And this is no help whatsoever, but the way I was looking at never mind. Anyway, I was looking at the prefix as pa, like up. Isn't that like up or out or the top of something? So I was
in the front of?
Yeah, or the front of. So I was thinking maybe that's where the arrow comes, because some flowers, are growing kind of like a stalk-like form.
Maybe so.
A wild stretch. Okay.
I don't know.
Sorry, just if you don't mind me piping in there, I just clicked on the Pali Text Society dictionary definition for Papu Paka.
Yeah.
It says, okay, so it says in quote, with flowers in front, close quote, and then they say flower tipped of the arrows of Mara.
Okay.
So that's in the dictionary.
Flower tipped, and then I guess in brackets the arrows of Mara.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Could be.
Yeah.
Yeah. Catherine?
Mine is having cut off the flowery tip of Mara. One may go not seeing the king of death.
Oh.
One may go
not seeing the king
not
of...
seeing.
Oh, that's maybe
so
so
I
much
put
better.
One may go not seeing the king of death. That's my translation.
Is good.
Thank you.
I think that's much better, maybe. I mean, that's a little different maybe than the Norman translation, but what you just said seems to make more sense grammatically to me. One should go, or one can go, and then here, describing it adjectively, adasang, not seeing Machurajasa, the king of death. Yeah. So what case do you take Machurajasa, Catherine?
Dative.
So read your translation one more time.
The whole thing?
No, just the last line.
Okay, the last line. One may go not seeing the king of death.
Yeah, but how is it
Dative.
this indirect case? Dative.
Dative. King of Death. King of Death is should be genitive.
Not singing
See?
of the King of Death? I'm not sure.
Mm.
Yeah, it's confusing. I'm not sure, I have to
Yeah,
admit it.
confusing.
Huilin, maybe you can help us. But you're muted, though. Make sure you're unmuted.
Okay. I have it a little bit different. Mine is just the last two lines.
Yeah.
Having severed Mara's flowery tipped arrows. Well, I was looking at the dictionary. May one moves out of sight of the King of Death.
Out of sight of the King of Death.
Yes. May one move out of sight of the King of Death.
Okay, it could be that too. I think the senses of all these translations are similar. I have to admit again that my grasp of the grammar is not 100% here. One may go. Yeah, maybe we should leave it. I'll have to think about that. We'll have to come back to this line. I'm sorry. Okay, let's do the last one. Diane, would you like to read and translate the last one for us? I think it's a bit easier.
I hope. Yo balo manyati balyam pandito wapi tena so balocha pandita mani save balo ti buchati. So yo balo, that fool, manyati, thinks or knows foolishness, balyam. Pandito vapi, you have down below, vapi is a combination, combines ava and api.
Mm-hmm.
So pandito, wise. Well, I translated it as, and yet, by that, he is wise. So the fool knows foolishness, and yet by that he is wise.
Okay.
Balocha pandita mani. Mani is, it's nominative. It's from manin. And when I looked up manin, it actually had this verse cited in the dictionary.
Yes.
So the fool, proud of his cleverness, is how they translated that in the dictionary. Save balo tivuchidi, he indeed is called a fool.
Yeah. There seems to be an ambiguity in the compound, at least to me, that the maning, pandita maning, it could be one who, using the mana in the sense of the mind, mano, one who thinks himself wise, but it also could be mana, because of the long A here, as pride, mana. So one who, how did you say it, Diane?
Well, I just took it right from the dictionary. The fool who is proud of his cleverness.
Yeah, and maybe that's better because there is that long A. One who's proud of his cleverness. He is indeed called a fool, right? Yeah. Okay, good. Anyone else want to offer their translation?
May I say something about the other one, the last line of the other one?
Adasanang Maju Rajasa Gache. Okay.
For me, it is. And notice goes beyond the King of Death. It's bad. It is bad.
I didn't catch it. I'm sorry. Could you say it again?
The last one, yeah, the 46.
Yes, I understand
Bueno,
where you are. Can you give me
bueno,
your translation
bueno,
again?
bueno. Uh, and the last line, and notice go beyond the king of death.
So how did you take gache? Did you took it as an optative, right? Could go or should go or might go. And
See,
what?
well, see, should go. See,
And
should
how did you
go.
take? What case did you understand machu rajasa to be?
For me, it's unnoticed. Well,
No, not machu rajasa.
For me, it's go beyond, to go beyond the king of death, unnoticed.
But the problem with your translation is that you're taking machu rajasa as an object of the verb, like an accusative.
Yes.
But it's not. That's the thing. It's a dative genitive. And so that's
Yes.
what we're trying to understand, how it might be fitting in properly. You see?
Yes, I will correct.
I'm working on it too. We're all working on this one. We're to be determined, not yet completed. I'm sorry. I'll try to think about it some more and get a better answer for all of us. Okay, are there any questions or alternate translations of the final one, 63? No. Okay. Then maybe in the last minute, I wanted to mention a couple of points about the grammar in the next chapter. If I can figure out where that is. I made myself a scan of it. And so we've actually had this before, but it was sort of like a preview. The genitive absolute and the locative absolute. But I wanted to just make sure we had it clear. So here, the locative absolute was absolute constructions also occur in the genitive. This construction is similar to that with the locative, except that the participle and its subject will both be in the genitive case. And it says here, where the past participle, the construction indicates the action prior to the main cause. Although it seems to me that genitive absolutives often have the sense of two events happening at the same time. But notice here the sentence, Achira pakantasa bhagavato kata udapadi. So here, let me just find my page. So this is the verb pakamati, right? To go, to set out from. It's in the genitive, it's a present participle genitive case, pakantasa. And so also bhagavato is in the genitive case. But it's not a genitive here in the sense of possession or having. It's an absolute construction. So as it's given as a translation, Achira, shortly after the Blessed One had departed. So ... In other words, there's something going to happen. Not long after the Blessed One left, set out, or departed, ayam kata udapadi, this conversation arose. So see how the use of the genitive here is not in our normal genitive possessive way, but to describe an if, a this, then that kind of construction. When this, then that. Yeah, this is the idea of the absolute construction. It also tells us that the verb ati, to be, to exist, has this present participle santa, and there are two locative forms, sati and sante. So you might have wondered, why would I ever need to know the locative form of the present participle? And the answer is because of this kind of construction. Sati is most often used, but sante appears when the sense is impersonal. So in the first one here, Maha Rajasa Ruchiya Santi. So notice the translation at the king's command doesn't really tell us much about what's happening here grammatically at all. So sati here, first of all, do not think it has anything to do with mindfulness. Sati, it is the present participle of ati in the locative, sati. So in their being, ruchiya, so this is ruchi, it's a feminine noun, right? It means actually liking or wish. And I guess this would be the feminine locative, in there being the wish of the great king. And so it has that sense of when the king made this demand, or at the king's command. So this is a typical kind of locative absolute construction. But notice here, as it said above, evang sante. So this is the other locative form, and it's this impersonal sense. Evang sante, that being the case. Or literally maybe, in that being thus. But evang sante, that being the case, is a much better translation. And of course the sense would be then something, right? That being the case, thus X. And I have here very quickly this famous saying, which we all have seen, imasming sati idang hoti, imas upada idang upajati, imasming asati idang nahoti, imasming niroda idang nirujati. So this being, idang hoti, there is this comes to be. With the arising of this, there's this arising. Then here is the second locative absolute. This not being, it's negated. This does not come to be with the from the cessation of this ablative, right? This ceases. So this is a kind of classic usage of locative absolute. And please keep in mind the usage of the, let me show you here also, you can find in the dictionary under the entry for sunt, present participle of ati, all the cases. And so we see here the locative sati and sante right here. So that, I think, will give us a good running start for our lesson 10. And I think this was if we started at the very beginning in the summer, this was our 30th class. So we've come a long way. Okay, well, thank you all very much.
Thank you.
And I'll see you next week, hopefully. Have a great time. Bye now.
Thank you, Stephen.
Thank you so much.
Be
Bye,
healthy,
everyone.
everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.